Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into the high-stakes, incredibly time-sensitive mission of rescuing feral kittens. You know, we've all seen those amazing videos online, right? A tiny one-pound kitten acting like a fierce, hissing apex predator, and then over time, completely transforming into a purring, cuddly lap cat. Honestly, it looks like magic. But what most people don't realize is that this transformation isn't just about giving them unconditional love and endless patience. It's actually a highly precise biological science. So today, we're going to unpack the exact protocols, the strict developmental timelines, and the behavioral psychology you need to effectively save the next generation of community cats.
So, the big question right out of the gate. Can a wild feral kitten actually become a cuddly house pet? Well, the short answer is absolutely yes. But the reality? You can only achieve this if you beat a very strict, very unforgiving biological clock. A feral kitten is literally, by definition, a wild animal. They've had zero positive socialization with humans. We are essentially fighting millions of years of evolutionary survival instincts that are screaming at this tiny creature that we are giant, terrifying predators coming to eat them. Overriding that deeply hardwired instinct, that doesn't just happen by accident. It requires a targeted strategy, a deep understanding of their neurology, and, honestly, absolutely perfect timing.
Here's our playbook for today. We're going to cover the ticking clock, the socialization window, how to go about flipping the feral, building comfort in layers, and finally, knowing exactly when to stop. All right, let's jump right into part one, the ticking clock and understanding those biological limits. There's a biological reality we just have to face here. A feral kitten is basically a wild animal with a fleeting, highly specific window for change. You can't just scoop a cat off the street at any arbitrary age and expect it to magically adapt to living on your couch. The Feline Veterinary Medical Association, along with decades of socialization research, pinpoints a sensitive period for this. It's roughly between 2 and 8 weeks of age. During this exact time frame, a kitten's brain is uniquely plastic. It's like wet clay. Neurologically, they are actively mapping their environment to figure out, what's safe and what's going to kill them. Their brains are highly receptive to learning that human beings can actually predict safety and resources instead of danger. But once this narrow developmental window closes, rewriting those neural pathways goes from being relatively straightforward to exponentially harder and eventually biologically impossible. Moving on to section 2, let's look at this socialization window as a literal race against time. To effectively rescue, you have to understand the physical development of the kitten week by week, because this tells you exactly how much time you have left to work with. At week 2, their eyes and ears are just opening. Their sensory world is brand new. This is when you start teaching them that human presence equals safety, using super gentle touch and really soft voices. By week 4, the stakes get a lot higher. They're walking, their canines are popping through, and they can start eating soft slurry. This is a massive milestone. Linking humans to food right now becomes an incredibly powerful psychological tool. A classic pro tactic here is feeding them meat baby food directly from a spoon. It creates this unbreakable link between human proximity and a super high-value reward. By week 6, they've got adult-like locomotion and are actively weaning. And by week 8, they should be engaging in confident play and reliably using a litter box. If they hit week 8 and haven't been socialized yet, that window of easy human connection isn't just closing, it is actively slamming shut. Which brings us to section 3, flipping the feral. Here is the step-by-step playbook. So how do we actually overwrite those wild survival instincts before time runs out? Well, remember, to a tiny kitten, your sheer size makes you Godzilla. You have to follow a very precise, progressive set of steps to flip them from feral to friendly. You start simply with your physical presence. Just sit in the room quietly. Let them observe you without any pressure. Then you add low, soothing voices. A kitten's hearing is incredibly sensitive, so no flooding them with loud household chaos or high-pitched squealing. Next is the absolute magic key: high-value food association. You pair your presence with every single meal. Finally, when they comfortably tolerate you being there while they eat, you introduce gentle touch. And this is crucial. This touch shouldn't happen while they're backed into a corner terrified. It should happen while they are actively distracted by eating. Keep it to non-threatening areas. Gently stroke the paws, the base of the ears, or the back of the neck. To successfully pull this off, you've got to remember that kittens have a strict stress threshold. If you push them too far, their tiny bodies flood with cortisol, the stress hormone, and boom, they completely stop learning. This is exactly why sessions must be short and frequent. Doing multiple 5-minute interactions throughout the day is vastly superior to one long, stressful, hour-long marathon. You move entirely at the kitten's pace, basing all progress on their body language and what they can tolerate. And as they hit that crucial 5 to 6 week mark, you need to introduce multiple calm handlers. You don't just want the kitten to learn to trust you specifically, you need them to generalize that trust, to learn that humans as a whole are safe. Let's move to section 4, building comfort in layers and the actual psychology of trust. How you approach a frightened animal completely dictates whether they will ever truly trust you. In the rescue world, there are generally 2 approaches, and one of them is highly destructive. That destructive method is called flooding. Flooding is when you force a hissing, panicked kitten into your arms, hold them tight, and ignore their fear until they just give up. People often mistake a kitten going limp for them calming down, but psychologically, that limpness is a state of learned helplessness. It is a severe trauma response. It doesn't teach trust at all. It just teaches them they have no control over terrifying situations. On the flip side, we have progressive layering. This means you only move to the next physical step when the kitten is completely relaxed and actively engaged with the current one. You are building an unbreakable foundation of trust based on choice and positive reinforcement, never on physical force. Cats are exquisitely sensitive to aversive learning. That means a single, forced, frightening episode can literally undo weeks of careful, progressive layering. The science shows us that the absolute best rescue programs rely on interactions that are brief, frequent, and strictly paired with food. The core philosophy of this entire process is really simple. You do not try to win by overwhelming a terrified kitten. Instead, you build comfort in layers. Human presence, voice, food association, touch, and play. You methodically stack these layers of comfort until their instinctual fear just evaporates. And finally, section 5, knowing when to stop and respecting humane boundaries. So what happens when we find a cat where that early developmental window is totally gone? 4 months. That is the hard biological threshold. It's the point where the neurological window has effectively slammed shut. When a community cat passes this age without consistent human socialization, our ethical obligations to that animal completely change. Attempting to force domesticity on an older feral cat doesn't improve their welfare. It actively degrades it. If you drag a truly feral adult cat indoors and confine them, they exist in a state of chronic panic. Viscerally, this looks like a cat spending 24 hours a day wedged behind a toilet, totally unresponsive to food or play, sometimes urinating out of pure terror when a human walks into the room. They never experience a moment of peace. The Feline VMA guidelines are incredibly clear on this. Confining a truly feral cat over 4 months of age is generally not an active rescue because that prolonged confinement fundamentally worsens their distress instead of alleviating it. For these older cats, the proven humane intervention is trap, neuter, return, or TNR. We trap them, have them medically evaluated, vaccinated, spayed or neutered, and then return them to the outdoor home they actually know, understand, and navigate successfully. We really have to reframe our idea of success here. We have to accept that sometimes leaving a healthy, sterilized adult cat in their outdoor environment is the most compassionate choice we can make. Letting them be wild while ensuring they're healthy and can't produce more litters is a massive victory for animal welfare. By intensely focusing our socialization tactics on that critical 2 to 8 week window, we can efficiently flip feral kittens into beloved pets. And at the exact same time, we can respect the boundaries of the adult cats who just want to be left alone in their outdoor territories. So I'll leave you to ponder this. If true love really means letting go, are we brave enough to respect the wildness of an adult feral cat while focusing all our efforts on the kittens we can actually save? Thanks for exploring the science of socialization with me, and I'll see you in the next explainer.